Hi, angels. In today's episode, this is an episode I guess I sat with, even about to record now. I sat here with 5 minutes going, do you really want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? Because this is something that I think on the inside and I've been feeling, but to put it out there might come across a little bit controversial. To put it out there might maybe offend some people, and to put it out there might it contradicts a lot of what I've been taught in the industry, in my past earlier training as a personal trainer and working with women. It kind of probably goes against a lot of what I was trained, but I'm just going to my episodes are always real and raw and honest. And I was sitting with this morning. I wasn't planning to do a podcast episode this morning. I've got so much to do before I go on retreat in a week. I've got episodes. They've just been coming through. I've been recording. I've been banking them. So there's enough content to kind of come out while I'm away. But then I'm like, it just kept coming to me. And I pulled out my phone notes and I just started typing away like this download of how I was feeling. And then I just got the urge to go, you need to get on and record about this. Then my inner, I guess you can kind of think of this conversation between the angel and the devil, or the ego and the soul. Like my soul was like, you need to share on this. And then my ego would kick in, that protection angel would that little devil would kick in and go, you might annoy some people, you might piss some people off, you might say something that doesn't sit well with people. And I'm a people pleaser. I like to say I'm not, but I know deep down I don't like offending people and I don't like upsetting people. Maybe that's the Libran in me, that I'm a peacemaker. I like to keep the peace. I like to have everything kind of calm. And but then I thought this needs to be said, because I just feel the way that our younger generation, the way our kids are seeing what's going on in social media, what's going on around them, how we kind of getting taught. I disagree. If I'm just going to put it out there, I disagree. And there's definitely parts I love. There's definitely, there's so much great information out there and there's so much great wisdom out there. However, there's parts that I see, and I've just been sitting with this for the last couple of weeks going, I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. I'm so glad I've done the work on myself. And this is what I want to inspire my community to do. Because I feel as a personal trainer I'm always going to be a personal trainer. That's what I've been trained in, okay? If you don't know my background, I own a yoga and Pilates studio. I've coached and worked with women for many, many years. I was a personal trainer, still am, group fitness instructor. And I've worked with women for a long time. And I've worked on myself for a long time. I've been working on myself physically, then mentally, and then I feel like this missing part of the puzzle has been deep dive spiritually. And I guess this is where I'm going with a lot of this episode, is I feel that a lot of the inner work is the missing piece. And I feel that when people understand how much empowerment and strength and how much they can transform their life when they do a lot of the inner spiritual work in conjunction with the physical. You cannot neglect your physical body. That's where you will really start to see transformations. That's where you will really start to feel more fulfilled, more happier, more confident, more self-aware, more self-acceptance. Is that missing piece of the puzzle, is doing that inner soul work as well. And so working with women for a long time, I'm 46 now, and I honestly feel so good in myself on so many levels, but I didn't always feel that way. And this is what I want to kind of take you through, a little bit of a journey, take you through what I'm seeing. I like to think of myself as I'm very deep. I'm very, very deep in my thinking. I'm very deep with my messaging. And sometimes I feel like I get this bird's eye perspective. I'm obsessed with eagles. Sometimes I feel like this eagle looking down, not down on, but looking around, just from a different perspective, looking around at what's going on. And then I kind of, share from that perspective, feeling like I'm just the messenger, right? This information, this content, this pours through me, I share, you take out of it what you need. You might be in a place where you disagree with everything. That's totally fine too. We're all our own valid opinions. Our own opinions are valid. Our own perspective is valid. But I always encourage you to have an open mind. I always will, rave on about like what Wayne Dyer says, have a mind that is like open to everything and closed to nothing, closed to nothing, and just take out of it, I guess, what you need. And you might, this might not sit well with you at the moment, but down the track it might. You might come back to it and you might see it from a different perspective, and that's okay. But I'm just going to go with it, okay? I'm just going to share what's coming up, what has been coming up, and then it's up to you to interpret it exactly how you want. And I guess the point of my episode today is, why are women training like men? And not all women, okay? Not all women, but women are not to be men. Like, women are not to be men. Why are we training like men? Why are we pushing ourselves like a man? Why are we doing these things with these preconceived ideas of this is what I need to do to be strong, and focusing on a lot of the exterior body and what we can do to strengthen our body and what we can do to push ourselves and grow, which are all very, very important. I will not tell you not to do those things. It's very, very important. But sometimes I think, girls, how far have we gone? Like, how far are we going? You know, I'm seeing so many women in, I guess where this has come from, two things that has really kind of sat with me a little bit lately. I'm seeing a lot of people that I know, like doing so much competitions, you know, like training in a very masculine way, pushing themselves and doing so much physical work that it's almost borderline obsessive, because I was there. And I'm not telling you anything that I haven't done. I'm not telling you anything that I haven't experienced myself. I'm just giving you some perspective from me, looking back at what I have done and where I sit now. I'm in two completely different places, and I've grown so much. So I guess I just want to maybe fast forward the clock a little bit, and I've still got more growth to happen, right? Like, I've still got a long way to go, and there's so much wisdom that I don't have yet that I'm just going to get from experience. Like, that's what we're here for, to learn and grow from experience. And what I'm seeing is so many women like really pushing themselves hard like men, with the way that they train, with the way that they push their bodies, with the way that they are absorbing the content on social media, the way that they are speaking out on social media, the way that they are, you know, like have this goal to get the perfect body, to have, and there's nothing wrong with wanting a strong, fit looking body. I have been there. I still am there. I still absolutely like to be fit and strong. But we kind of have this idealism that our body, we need to have the 6-pack abs. We need to have like the visible definition in our muscle tone, in our arms and in our strength. And, you know, like we're smashing our bodies so hard and we're pushing ourselves so much that I feel we're stepping into, as a general collective, and it's not just working out, it's a general collective from a lot of different energetic perspectives, that we're just living in so much masculine. We're living in so much get stuff done, got to get on to the next thing, go, got tasks to do, got goals to set, got deadlines to meet, pushing, striving, competing all the time, that it's pushing the balance of the scales are tipping more towards living in such a masculine society, as opposed to embracing this feminine, this beautiful feminine, because there is strength in the feminine, girls. There is strength in softness as well. We need both, that yin and yang, that masculine and feminine. We absolutely need both. So what I'm seeing on social media, what I'm seeing in people I know, what I'm seeing around me is just this big push to work really, really hard, and to, you know, you see it all the time on social media, you know, like these bodies with the ripped 6-pack abs, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. We want to be stronger, we want to be fitter, we want to be really confident in ourselves, but confidence doesn't come from having the 6-pack abs. Confidence doesn't come from winning a competition. Confidence doesn't come from being your absolute best to smash a goal. It's about the process of who you become along the way. So if I kind of take you back a little bit, so I was a personal trainer, like I said, still am a personal trainer. And if I look back to all of the training that we got taught, and the way that I would coach women was, you know, like everything, there was a lot of pressure on numbers. There was a lot of pressure on hitting goals and hitting weight loss goals and hitting certain body fat percentages and hitting certain 1 rep maxes or hitting like certain numbers in the gym. There was a lot of focus on numbers. And I do believe like, you know, like I think measurement is important. I think goals are important, but I want to shift it into a bit of a different perspective. Okay. So that's what we got taught, you know, like we were constantly like, you know, checking all of your macros and your micros and checking everything that you are eating and checking everything that you are, you know, like your starting measurements, your finishing measurements, what your body fat percentage is, how fast you can run, how fast you can hit all these goals, how fast you can do certain things, how much you can lift. Like, and these are, they come from a lot of masculine, and everything, if I look back now, everything in that personal training apprenticeship, that personal training teaching that I undertook was very, very masculine. Everything that we got taught was very, very masculine. It was all about, they touched on a little bit of mindset, but there was nothing on this internal worth. There was nothing on building your confidence from the inside. It was all based on physical. Everything that we get taught is coming from more of an ego perspective, which is based on physical, based on the exterior. Nowhere taught you how to love and accept your body. Nowhere taught you how that you're amazing exactly how you are. Yes, we can improve some things, but it was all very focused on pushing and striving and numbers and goals and that constant measuring and constant tracking. And then what I saw over the years was this constant up and down with women that I was working with, this constant stop-start, this constant yo-yo, this constant extremes, this constant obsession. And I was in amongst it too. Like I definitely was in amongst it as well, because we just got pushed. I would push myself. I remember being in the gym and I would push myself where I had to get one more rep out. We're doing deadlifts and I'm like, I just got to get one more rep. And my gut kind of said to me, you've done enough. But in my head, I'm like, no, you've got to do one more. And what happened? I did one more and I put my back out and I hurt myself. And I'm like, why the hell did I do that for a number? And I started thinking about certain, you know, ways that I would lift or certain exercises that I would do or certain goals that I was striving for. This is what would go through my head. I would think, I don't give a fuck what my 1 rep max is. How is that important to my life? And that's what would go through my head at the time. But I was conditioned in this way of striving, in this way of pushing, in this way of setting goals, that I was kind of battling with this internal belief of, you know, this is what I've been trained to do, but this internal belief of I actually really don't care what my 1 rep max is, you know? And so I was kind of battling with that, what I'd been trained and what I was doing myself just kind of didn't align. And I look back and I think there was actually last night, I did a post and I put up it was a story, and I pulled out a picture of myself when I was we were in Cabo, Mexico, and it's a beautiful picture. And I was on the, anyway, really nice picture. I was in my bikinis and I looked at that picture and I thought, man, I am so different to that woman of 5 years ago. That woman back then, she was working herself to the bone with exercise, obsessive, compulsive, was worried about, as a personal trainer, I have to present that I am on the exterior, I am strong, I am fit, I am ripped like I did, I had strong abs, I had a strong physical body, I was so lean. And it was just before I opened the studio, just before COVID went, you know, our last kind of overseas trip before COVID hit, and just before I was, everything come about me opening the studio, like everything lined up. And I looked at that photo the other night and I thought, man, I have grown so much since that photo. However, if I was to compare my physical body now compared to what my body looked like back then to society's standards, I was leaner back then. I was fitter. I was stronger. Probably not, different kind of strength, right? I was lifting heavier. I was definitely, it was a different version of me. And I was looking at all of the numbers. I was in the gym. I was smashing my body. I was working hard, but I was starting to kind of hit that point where I'm like, what is the point of all of this? You know, like I started to think, because I was it was roughly 5 years ago. So I would have been just 41, I think. And I was starting to think to myself, I want to work out for the long term, like I don't want to smash my body so much that my knees give out, or that I don't feel like doing box jumps anymore. I was getting to that point, and I had been doing a lot of yoga along the way. I've always done yoga from the time I was early 20s, and I was getting into a lot more Pilates, and I was thinking, and that was how I started to train my girls. And that's what I was doing with my girls, and I was doing a lot of mindset stuff. But if I look at that picture back then, I was still not happy in my body. There were certain things that I didn't feel good enough. I would compare myself to other trainers, and I would compare my body fat percentage. And I was constantly looking at numbers that I think I was definitely in a good place, but I'm not in the place that I was in now because I've come so far and I've learned so much. I was definitely obsessing over a lot of things that are really not important. Then if I was to take it back quite a few years earlier to when I was I would have been in my 30s when I got my implants put in. I was so lean. Like I'd had 2 kids, had the kids, and I was very, very lean. And I was training like a man. I was absolutely training like a man, like I was obsessed with doing, before my implants. So let me take you back here, just before my implants. I would do pull-ups, chin-ups. Like I had a chin-up bar at home. Like I would do so many exercises that were such in the masculine that what happened is I looked at my body, I was working out, I was training really hard, I was pushing myself really hard, I was striving really hard. And this is before I become a personal trainer. And I would look at my body and I didn't feel good enough because I was still trying to strive for more. And then what happened is I was so lean, I look at my body and I go, I got no boobs. I got to fix that. Like I didn't feel like, because obviously what happens when you get really lean, like you get so lean everywhere that I looked at my body and I felt, if I was to look back now, it was very masculine. My body was very, very masculine looking. But I had to fix that by getting implants, right? Because I felt like I was missing. I still didn't feel good enough, still needed to fix my body, still needed to do something to feel better about myself. And I got implants. And it was a bit of a time where I guess I was just so concerned with what people thought. And I know we all go through that where we're worried about what people think. I would get in my head and go like, even in my body, I don't feel feminine enough. I don't feel like my body is womanly enough. So I'll go and get implants and it will fix it, right? So I was still in that space of not, even though my body was lean, my body was fit, my body was strong, my body was healthy, I was still full of energy. My mindset at the time I thought was strong, but when I look back, I go, well, if it was that strong and I was that, I guess, in love with my body, or if I felt that good about myself, why did I go and get implants? So that's something that I sit with now, but that's okay. Like that's what I can't remember, I'm not good at doing the math, 33 or 30 something year old Lise decided to do, was to feel better by getting that done to her body. So it's this constant obsession, right, of wanting to look good, but it comes back to how we want to feel. So I guess I kept pushing myself to strive for looking better, feeling better, but I was living in that masculine energy at the gym. There's nothing wrong with the gym. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the gym. It's where it all stems from. But for me, it was wanting to look better and look like a personal trainer, but then wanting to look like a woman at the same time. And I look back and I go, your body was so masculine. Like you were just so in the masculine, and that's okay. Like that's what I was doing at the time. We learn from things. There's no right or wrong or good or bad or mistakes. It's just experience, right? And we grow and we learn and we evolve. But I was living in a point of obsession, of constantly pushing myself and constantly living in this masculine, that I kind of hit a point where even after I got the implants, there were still things that I would judge and would criticize about my body. And as a woman, like our body is constantly changing. We're constantly shifting. We go through periods, we go through cycles. And I was doing all of my training around what I got taught as a personal trainer. When I started to get into the studio a lot more, and I started to do a lot more inner work, and I started to do a lot more soul work and a lot more spiritual work, I started to understand how you can still be strong, you can still be fit, you can still have muscle definition, but training in a different way or moving your body in a different way. I really gave up a lot of what I was doing and got so dove so deep into doing a lot of personal training, a lot of yoga and Pilates, and doing a lot of the inner work in conjunction. I've been doing mindset work for a long time. For over 15 years, I've been doing so much mindset work, but the missing piece was doing the inner soul work. And I started to realize that my body, as I've gotten older, my body has definitely changed. I'm still looking after myself. I'm still working out. I'm still eating really well. But I shifted to doing so much of the inner work that I started to understand that there is strength in softness, girls. Like, you can still have a really strong body, but embrace those feminine woman aspects and those feminine qualities of having strength from within. And I started to see how through yoga and through like just constant yoga and Pilates and a lot of the inner work, that you can still be strong in the softness. And what I started to uncover was I started to learn more about my body. I started to become more in tune with my body. I started to learn the wisdom in my body. I started to communicate. My body was communicating with me, and I was picking up on that. I was becoming more intuitive. And I would see in the studio that I would have men that would come in, and strong fit men, like they would come in from gyms and they would come in and visibly on the outside, they were so strong and ripped, and they couldn't do what we could do in Pilates, girls. Like, they could not do what we could do in certain yoga positions, going from your down dog into your planks over repetition. There were certain things I'm like, these are big, strong, buff men that can't do what we are doing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different form of training. And I started to see, hang on a sec, like this training that I'm diving into, there is still so much strength and power, and there is still so much, you can still build a really strong, fit body by doing this different form of training. And that's all I would do. I would step into the yoga and the Pilates. But yes, we're using weights. Like, we're still training with weights. We're still training with resistance. We're using a lot of body resistance. But what I started to notice was my body was still so strong. But what shifted was a lot of the internal wisdom. What shifted was a lot of the acceptance for myself. I would still go back into my gym. Every now and then I would go back into the gym, and I would go and try and lift. I was just doing a lot of experimenting, and I would go and lift what I was doing, because you got to think now, I'm doing a lot of Pilates, I'm doing a lot of yoga. A lot of the weights that we use in Pilates they're less than 5 kilos, right? Where I would be used to doing a lot of big, heavy, like 40 kilo deadlifts or things like that. And I would go into my gym, and then I would lift certain things, and I'm going, I can still lift this. Or I'd go for a run, or I would go cycling through Bali, because I was doing a lot of bar classes, and I would go and do a lot of physical. I was trekking volcano in Bali, and I'm like, I'm still fit and I'm not doing the high intense sprint interval training that I was doing. I'm not doing the big heavy lifts that I was doing, but I started to see my body is still so strong. It's just stronger in a different way, but I haven't lost any of my ability to be cardiovascular fit. I haven't lost any of my ability to lift a certain amount of weight. I could still do it. But what shifted in me was the way I was training. What shifted in me was I was starting to learn to love and appreciate and accept on my body. And I felt more confident, and I feel more confident now than looking at that photo of me in Mexico 5 years earlier, who was doing a lot of the big heavy lifting and training like a man. I felt more empowered now because I've shifted the way that I'm training, but I also have shifted the way that I see myself. I've shifted the worth that I've got in myself. I've shifted the internal. I started to see that being feminine is strong, that having really powerful intuition is strong, that having wisdom in your body is strong, that having compassion for yourself, and learning that, okay, there's days where I would go, I actually don't feel like exercising today because I was either on my period, or because I was really tired, or because I just had so much going on at work. And I go, I'm just going to choose some more gentle yoga practice today. That was strength in itself right there. Choosing that, just making that decision to listen and honor my body, where the old me would go, nope, I've got written down, I'm going to do these amount of training sessions per week. I've got to do legs this day. I've got to do, upper body this day. I had it all mapped out. I would do it rain, hail or shine, no matter what condition I was in, no matter how I was feeling, I would just push through. Whereas I started to learn to go, there is strength in listening to your body. There is strength in actually saying, no, I need to rest today. There is strength in going, I need to do a bit more of a slower practice today. So I started to see how there is more strength in honoring your body's wisdom, in honoring listening to your body, in honoring that feminine quality of, or that feminine energy of softness, of love, of compassion, of kindness towards myself. And that I started to accept myself a lot more. I started to go, you know what? I'm stronger internally. Because if you look at the word yoga, for instance, yoga means union. Yoga means uniting, that whole body, mind, soul aspect of ourselves, embracing the good, the bad, the ugly, embracing all parts of ourselves, being truthful with ourselves, being honest with ourselves, looking at our stuff. Where you would find you go to the gym, or you go and work out, or you go and exercise in certain ways, often you would do that to escape. Often you would do that to run away from things, because you know, that's my way I can escape everything. That's my way that I can feel stronger by doing this exercise for myself, as opposed to actually sitting with and looking at my stuff. So I started to see how yoga really encompassed, the word is union, uniting. So every aspect of ourself. Pilates, when you look at Pilates, like the big foundation of Pilates, the big principle of Pilates is everything starts from the center. So physically, right, you engage your core. Everything starts from the center. You have that activation with your core, your spine, your glutes, like you've got this powerhouse, this center powerhouse. And then we have this engagement through our center, and then it stems out to our extremities, out to our limbs, but you're always focusing on the center first. Where I started to see, if I focus on my center from a spiritual perspective first, it then ripples out into the exterior of my life. It then ripples out into this other kind of strength, this strength that comes from within. It then starts to ripple out into other areas of your life. So I started to see how what I was learning on the mat through a lot of the Pilates and the yoga principles, and really being honest and looking at my stuff and looking at myself, I was becoming stronger. I was becoming more empowered. I was becoming more in tune with myself. I was becoming more in tune with my body's innate wisdom. I started to move like that. I always talk to the girls about having like that animal instinct, like in moving instinctively, getting in touch with yourself instinctively, learning to feel, like learning to move and feel and flow in your body, as opposed to just smashing your body to hit certain accomplishments or certain goals. And I started to see, the older I got, the more I started training this way, I was seeing women around me who I, might know quite well, or who were doing competitions. Again, there's nothing wrong with competitions, okay? But I would see them go and dive into, say, bodybuilding competitions or certain competitions to fill a void of what was happening in their life. Then I would see, again, like just having this big picture perspective, see the obsession, see the giving up so much of what they love for a certain period of time, which is fine. Going through the competition, getting on the other side, feeling so much that they have lacked in joy in life, and this constant striving of just measuring everything, and this constant obsession and this constant restriction, that then they would come out the other end and just go to a whole other extreme again, where maybe they would put on all this weight, or maybe they would go back into old habits, or this constant kind of yo-yoing, or this constant up and down, instead of fixing the real problem. I started to see how sometimes, I guess, this pressure to work on your body can almost be like this band-aid, where it can be a fixing of something on the exterior, but it's not fixing the internal problem, or it's not getting to the root cause of the problem, or it's not changing you from the inside. And how I would see in so many people, like it was kind of, I guess, and this might not be for you, or maybe it is and you're just not realizing it yet. And this isn't for everybody, but this is a certain, element of what I would see, that this constant pressure. If I fix myself on the outside, if I feel strong, if I have muscle, if I push myself really hard, if I prove something to myself, then that will make me feel better. That will make me feel better about myself. That will make me feel good. That will fix me. And then what would happen is it didn't fix everything, right? because there was so much pressure, there was so much focus on the exterior that it wasn't doing anything internally. Yes, it might make you feel strong. Absolutely. Like I've done triathlons, I've done things like that. And it does, it's good to have a goal. Like there's nothing wrong to have a goal, and there's nothing wrong to grow and to push yourself and get out of your comfort zone. I 100% agree with all of those things. But you just got to ask yourself, like, where is that coming from? Where is the underlying drive from this coming from? Is it to fix a broken relationship? Is it because you feel bad in other areas of your life? You feel unworthy in other areas of your life that you obsess over if I get strong and fit in my body, or if I present on social media that I've got this strong exterior, that I look amazing, is that going to make me feel better? It might for a period, but long term, some underlying beliefs and some underlying pressure and some underlying trauma, some underlying lack, some underlying fear, some underlying feelings of not being good enough are still going to be there. And that's where I saw this missing piece, is doing the internal work, is working on yourself from a spiritual perspective in conjunction with working on your body. Because we have to take care of our body. We have one body to get us through life. We have to nourish it. We have to take care of it. We have to move it. Like we have to really look after it. So I'm not saying that the spiritual work is everything. What I am saying is finding that missing piece of the puzzle and getting back to taking care of yourself from a spiritual perspective and a mindset perspective, as well as this physical perspective. And are you needing to prove something to yourself? Are you needing to fix something? Is that coming from a place of ego, or is that coming from a place of soul? Because often people can jump into these competitions, or often people can push themselves at the gym or train a certain way, or push themselves to lose this weight or lose these, like hit these certain goals, because it's coming from ego. I have to prove myself. I have to look like I've got my shit together. I have to look strong on the outside. My body will fix everything. I just want you to ask yourself, like, where is this coming from? Is it coming from a place of ego? Because I have to look a certain way, or I was coming from that place of ego. I would push myself because I would feel, unless I looked ripped, unless I looked strong, unless I looked like a personal trainer, I was not a good enough personal trainer. I had to have this appearance on the outside. When I started to get real with my clients and I started to see in my clients that they could hit certain goals and they would look amazing on the outside, but still when I got to know them, because people always open up to me, that they were working so hard on the outside, but there was still so much lacking on the inside, so much, still didn't have confidence, they still didn't see the beauty in themselves, they still didn't feel beautiful enough, or they still couldn't, they still couldn't feel or see this inner worth, even though they were ticking certain goals along the way. That's when I started to see the missing piece. And that's when I started to look at my own stuff and go, what am I missing? And it wasn't until I got my implants out and I had scars and that's all healed now. But at that time, it wasn't until I removed this external layer, I had this shift from ego to soul, that I started to see my true worth. And I started to see I can still feel beautiful, and I might not look as ripped as what I was. I might not be the fittest that I was. I might not have the leanest amount of body fat percentage that I've ever had in my life, but I feel beautiful. I feel confident. I feel empowered. I still have yuck days. I still have days where I put my clothes on and go, I feel fat in this, or I feel gross in this. And I just honor where I'm at the moment and go, okay, that's cool. And I sit with it, but I don't stay in that funk. I don't stay there. I don't hate on my body, but there are definitely times I judge and criticize my body. Absolutely, I'm not perfect, but overall I'm feeling more empowered because I'm working from more of a physical and spiritual and emotional and mental level all rolled into one. And that is where your power lies, in packaging it all up together. And you've got to get back to, what is it that I'm looking for? What is it that is pushing me? It's the feeling of what we want, girls. It's the feeling of feeling, if you strip back the layers, okay? Strip back the layers. What are you actually looking for? We're looking for the feeling of being accepted. We're looking for the feeling of loving on ourselves. We're looking for the feeling of feeling strong. We're looking for the feeling of feeling empowered. We're looking for the feeling of feeling confident. We're looking for the feeling of feeling loved. We're looking for the feeling of wanting to love on ourselves. We're looking for the feeling of achieving something and growing. We're looking for acceptance. We're looking for, recognition, and all of that is within. We don't need to just work on the physical and present that to the world. You can find that within, regardless of what your body looks like, regardless of what you are actually presenting out to the world. You've got to take it back and look within, because that is where it will come from. That is where you will get this internal validation is more important than the external validation. This internal acceptance is more important than people around you accepting you. This internal love for yourself is more important than love from admirers and likes and comments on socials. It all comes from within. So learning to work out and learning to move your body because you love your body and you want to care for your body and you want to nourish your body, as opposed to these exterior goals. It comes down to what you're chasing, and you can find it within as well, or instead of, or more powerfully, by seeking it from without, to get back to what you truly want. And know that, even working on yourself in terms of affirmations, in terms of your mindset, if you put that into your reality enough, you will start to believe it. So what I mean by that is, over the years, I've done so much work on feeding my mind affirmations and beliefs of I am healthy, I am fit, I am powerful, I am strong, I am capable, I am balanced, I am calm, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy is something that I would always, always, always put into my subconscious mind. And so what I started to see was I got sick less. I got more strength, I got more energy, because I'm feeding my mind and I'm feeding my soul with these subconscious beliefs as well about being healthy and what health looks like, and not just working on my physical body. So it's amazing. Even doing a lot of Louise Hay work, I love Louise Hay, and she talks a lot about affirmation. She talks a lot about looking into the mirror and saying to the mirror, I love you, I really love myself. And that is a hard thing for a woman to do. I've had so many women come to me who, again, look physically amazing, would come to me and go, I can't look in the mirror and say I love you. I just can't do it. I would say in class, to the girls at the end of class, what's one thing you're grateful for about your body? Or what do you love or like or appreciate about your body? I've had women come to me and say, I sat there with nothing. It makes me cry. I go, I couldn't think of anything to say. And these are girls who look amazing, who look beautiful, but still can't see that in themselves. So it's about really embracing there is strength, and there is strength in softness, girls. Like, there is so much strength in having softness towards yourself, as well as, instead of just training like a man all the time and living in that dominant masculine energy. I pulled a card this morning, and this card that I pulled, I sat with this episode, I sat with everything that was coming up. I sat with the way that I used to look at myself and how I look at myself now. And I've just had this thought, pull a card. And if you're new to my podcast, I don't always, but sometimes I will pull some cards from my angel cards or oracle cards or whatever you want to call them. And this card that I pulled today was Descend. And I'm going to ask you this question, okay? It's time to climb down into the core of your question, your issue, or your circumstance, so you can perceive its true nature and its deepest inner workings. On the surface of things, your situation appears one way. But when you go beyond the surface and examine its roots and foundations, you will see something else entirely, something that will bring you relief, clarity, and healing. Sometimes when a situation feels uncomfortable or frightening, you have the impulse to avoid it, deny it, minimize it, or float above it. And sometimes that works out fine. But in this particular instance, it will benefit you more holistically and comprehensively when you take a deep breath, come into your body, assert your willingness to feel all your feelings and acknowledge all aspects and dynamics of what you're experiencing. Is there anything familiar about what you're going through? Have you run into any incarnation of this particular challenge in the past? Does this bring up any feelings or fears that are unrelated to what is happening? So what came up for me when I was reading this card, it says climbing down into the well to see what lies beneath the ground is not always comfortable. It requires courage to shine the light into the shadows so you can see what has previously been hidden. This work is invaluable to everyone on the spiritual path, and looking bravely into the darkness is an unraveling tool for calling back your energy and standing in your power. You have nothing to fear. When you bravely descend into the heart and soul of the matter, you will see what you need to see and know what you need to know. So when I pull this card, Descend, what first come up for me and what I want to share with you is it's time for you to dive deep down, descend into the question, the core of the issue, the circumstance. On the surface of things can look perfect. Things can look, like it says, on the surface of your situation, things can appear one way, but when you go beyond the surface and examine its roots and its foundations, you will see something entirely different. Get down to your roots and get down and ask yourself the question, what is important to me about working out? What is important to me about taking care of my body? What is important to me about exercise, about fitness, about movement? Is it what you present to the exterior world? Is it how you look in your body? Is it hitting certain goals, hitting certain 1 rep maxes, or hitting certain goals like that? Is that really important to you? Get down to the root and ask yourself, what is really important? Ask yourself why you're working out. And that's what I really want to ask you. Why are you working out? Are you working out in the masculine? Maybe you're not working out at all. And I don't want you to sit with this episode if you're someone that doesn't work out and go, see, this is why I shouldn't work out, or this is why I shouldn't look after my body because I'm already doing the inner work. No, you ask yourself the question, are you working on your exterior as well? Like, you need to work out and you need to look after your physical body, because on the other flip side, I have seen women who have had this constant yo-yo, this constant, they'll work out and they'll take care of themselves for a period, then they'll go back into old habits and old excuses will come up around, I don't have time, or I've always been the fat kid, or I've always been, I've always looked like this, so what's the point? Like, I see the other extreme too, where people can be working on their inside, but they're not doing their work on their outside. And maybe not working on the outside keeps them safe and keeps them comfortable and keeps them hiding behind certain layers where we all have work to do. I do, you do, we all have work to do on ourselves, absolutely. And it can be layers of trauma that we have this excuse, that we keep these layers of protection around us. And these layers could be excuses, they could be limiting beliefs, they could be weight, they could be this protection to keep you safe as well. So really get deep to the core of your issue and get deep to ask yourself the question around working on your body. Where does it come from? Why do you need to do it? What is it that you are seeking? Because true strength comes from the inside. True strength comes from looking at your stuff. True strength comes from embracing all parts of you, that shadow part of you that maybe has some underlying programming, that has some limiting beliefs, that has been stuck in the past, that has been stuck in trauma, that has been stuck in obsession or compulsion. And ask yourself, like, why am I actually doing this? And what do I really want to achieve? What is the feeling that I want? And I also pulled a card this morning in this deck, the past. This is my goddess. This is my goddess oracle book. I love this guidebook. And I thought, what goddess needs to come forward for these girls today? And it said, there are certain moments within your personal history that hold great treasure for you now. When you examine your memories, which are the domain of Greek goddess, I can't even say her name, empowered wisdom is revealed. The lessons you find are like sacred talismans contained within your past, like fossils in amber. Right now, you can trust your instincts that if something brings to mind your past, it indeed has a kernel of the old in the new. This is an amazing opportunity to make informed choices and do something differently. Our stories can no longer hold us hostage in a past that does not serve us. She comes to remind you that running away from painful memories and pretending that wrongs have committed does nothing to help you find true meaning and purpose. Your alignment task is to stop and take inventory of the past and stories that have kept you tied to it and defined by it. And I had to sit with this today, and what came up with me from the past was I started to look at my old self And I started to look at the ways that I would look for validation, the ways that I would look for approval, the ways I was obsessed with perfectionism, the ways that I was training like in that masculine energy constantly, and how that big lesson of getting my implants out and getting rid of perfection and shifting from ego to soul has brought me to an even more powerful place, and has brought me to a version of myself now that has learned to love and accept myself for who I am, regardless of what I look like on the exterior. And I've realized that excuse me, there is so much strength in being soft. There is so much strength in being wise. There is so much strength in being intuitive. And how girls, like, why are we doing things like men? Like the feminine energy of being a woman is so freaking powerful. That feminine energy of compassion, of softness, of love, of looking at yourself through the eyes of love, of accepting other women instead of competing with other women, instead of pushing ourselves to constantly compete, teaching our kids that we need to constantly compete to feel good about ourselves. Get back to the energy of feminine. There is strength in the feminine. There is strength in being in touch with yourself. There is strength with being soft. There is strength from listening to your body and honoring your body. There is so much strength in the feminine energy. So why are we living in so much masculine? Why are we pushing ourselves like men instead of embracing this feminine energy? Because she is fucking powerful, my friends. Like, she is so strong. She is so wise. She is so powerful. Live from more of that feminine energy as well, and start to look at yourself through the eyes of love. Look at yourself through the eyes of source. Look at yourself through the eyes of divinity, and you will see the beauty and the strength and the power that you already have got within. You don't need to seek it outside of yourself. You don't need to find it by looking a certain way on your exterior. It all is within. You just need to look, and you need to do the work on your inner body as much, or in my opinion, more so than you do on your outer body. And that is what you will learn in yoga and Pilates. This episode is not to say you got to go and do yoga and Pilates, but yeah, it helps. It definitely helps. But you need to do the inner work on yourself, and you need to start looking at yourself through the eyes of more love, the eyes of more acceptance, the eyes of nourishment, girls, like nourishing your body, your mind, your soul, and looking at yourself through the eyes of more beauty. You are beautiful exactly the way you are, not when you hit a certain weight on the scales, not when you hit a certain goal of lifting a certain amount of weight, not when you get yourself into a competition to prove that you can do it to yourself. Yes, it's good to grow. Yes, it's good to get out of our comfort zone. Yes, it's good to do those things, but ask yourself the underlying root question: where is it coming from? Descend deep down, like that card said, and ask yourself, where is it coming from? Is it coming from a need to prove myself? Is it coming from a need to hide something that, or push something deep down inside that I've been carrying and not deal with it? Where is everything coming from? Is it coming from a need to distract myself? Is it coming from a need to prove myself to other people? Is it coming from a need to get more followers or get more likes or get more external validation? Where is it coming from? And look at your goals. From what really shifted in me is when I started to feel that I want to be able to work out for long term. I don't want to go on this up down process. I don't want to work out for a period of time. I want to take care of my body forever. I want to have optimal health and fitness for life, because I want to have energy to keep up with my kids. I want to have energy for myself. I want to have energy to get the most out of my life. I want to have energy to, and a healthy body, to age well, to be free from sickness and disease, to really be limber in my body, to be flexible in my body so that I don't get up and ache. Like, I have this longevity in my body. I have vitality in my body. I have health and wellness. I don't want to be in hospitals. I don't want to be sick. All of the things. Really get back to, what do I want for the long term? What is my big reason why? And mine is to get the most out of life. But I've had to work through a lot of layers. I've had to work through a lot of what I've just shared with you in this episode. And I've had to work through a lot of finding that beauty and self-love within. I've had hard lessons. I've gone through all of the crappy times of getting my implants in, getting them out, seeing my worth, like really looking at my stuff. And I realized that it was when I shifted from coming from that place of ego to more of coming from a place of soul. That's when I found my strength. And that's when I found my purpose. That's when I found I can love myself. I can be more confident in myself. And that's when I started to see that the more I love on myself, the more I show that to my kids, the more I accept on myself, the more I teach that to my kids. That is the most important thing, is leaving a legacy behind for future generations about self-acceptance, about self-love, about nourishment, about softness, about kindness, about compassion, about peace, being at peace with myself, being at peace with the beautiful woman that I am, and being at peace with really loving on my interior as opposed to loving more on my exterior. I hope that makes sense, girls. I hope that helps. I've probably gone for 50 minutes. This has been a long episode, but I want you to embrace being a woman, girls. Embrace this feminine energy, because we have strength that a man will never have. Again, there's no better than, no less than, no right or no wrong, but we have so much strength that as a woman, when you start to see that and you start to honor that and you start to connect with that within your body, you will find so much more purpose. You will find so much more love for the beautiful woman that you are. You will find so much more acceptance for the woman that you are. And that's what we're looking for, girls. Like, we're really looking for this love and appreciation and this worth in ourselves. And you've already got it here. You just need to find it. Anyway, have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode, my friends. So much love to you, beautiful. Bye.